Warning, high winds approaching, water level rising, temperature increasing, voltage overloading.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1268 of our daily content grind. Now, yesterday was supposed to be our monthly Q&A video, but an entire new toy line was announced. So we took priorities. Now we are going to get back to the Q&A video. Frankly, there's so many things being announced at Toy Fair, I almost pushed this back again, except I have all of my videos planned out, and it only works one way, since I'm going off to LA for TFCon next week. So unfortunately, it is what it is. So we'll be talking about stuff later. But for now, we need to talk the Q&A because you need to have at least a month to get your questions in. So we can't delay this any longer. So as always, if you want to have a question answered on the next Q&A, leave it in the comments below. Please, if you are going to, the ground rules, of course, one question per person so we can get through everyone, so everyone has a fair turn. Try to keep it short and simple. Do not ask me to do entire concepts for new series. Do not ask me to come up with entire rosters. Ask me things that we can quickly go through. And I am going to try and get through this quick because it's late and I'm way underprepared for this trip. Please don't ask me about Gundam or realistic gun Megatrons. I have no answer for you anymore. I will refuse to answer those questions. Keep it TOS friendly. I will block you from future Q&As if you start throwing profanities. I think that's it. I think there's one other rule I'm forgetting it. For some reason, it's not showing up on the top here. But let's get to what we need to get to. So, starting off with what's the weirdest, most messed up mechanic for a game you've seen? If you're going with any game, that would probably be Steel Battalion for the PS2. So it's the mech game where you had that entire control panel around you for the controller. The mechanic in the game was that you had an eject button, complete with one of those little protective covers you had to flip up and then hit the button. And if your mech was running out of health and was starting to blow up, you needed to hit that button to eject so that you can go back to base and try again like a normal video game. If you failed to eject in time, the game deleted your save. You have one life in the game. You must preserve it. Realistic, yeah. And kind of cool, honestly. But yeah, kind of messed up. I don't want to get 10 hours into a game and then, lose my entire save file because the cover got stuck or, someone distracted me. It's messed up, but it's kind of cool. Hasbro tells you that you use any mold for your crossover collaborative toy. Who are you picking? No, I'm not picking Star Saber. No. I honestly, it would have to be one of those bludgeon toys where there's also a skull face to the chest. That way you can actually put my logo on the chest where it's supposed to be. So either a bludgeon or maybe a Silverbolt mold, the new Legacy Silverbolt mold, because I keep telling people a Griffin would be my alt mode. So I need to come close to that. We all know Polar Claw, but what happened to Equatorial Fang? Same thing that happened to Tropical Incisor. We don't talk about them anymore. They know what they did. Keeping in mind that while there are robotic organisms, how do you see Transformers having children? What would make sense in future media without relying on how squishy organics have children usually? So for me, I always view if Transformers would have a method of reproducing, if I was writing it, you would have the protoform made from Born of the Living Metal of Cybertron, as everything else in Transformers usually is. That's usually how it goes. But to actually ignite a spark, I would have the two parental Transformers actually touch sparks. It would slide out, or it would be on some kind of mechanism where they could just take it out like almost like how in Beast Wars G1 Megatrons was on a big cable, something like that, to where they could touch sparks together and ignite a new spark. That would be my method of procreation. Let's see. Something I also meant to say, like, if you're going to make a comment on the video, this is the one I forgot. If you're going to make a comment, please mark it as a comment so we do not start reading things that are not questions. What matchup for Lion Voltron do you think is better? Voltron versus Victory Saber, Voltron versus Lio Kaiser, Voltron versus Predaking. Voltron versus Predaking is actually pretty enticing. And I think Voltron's like, here's the thing, like, Voltron's not all that big. All of these are very, very large. This would be a mismatch. Assuming we are living in a world where Voltron is, you know, a comparative size, I think Predaking's the better comparison there. You know, because you've got, you know, Predatory Beast versus Predatory Beast. Lio Kaiser's a close second, but that's just someone who's themed after beasts. Question, is Magnetar's design based on tokusatsu heroes? His silhouette kind of reminds me of Neo Heisei era Kamen Riders. So, you know, funny enough, if you look on Agent Magnetar's Twitch page, twitch.tv/Agent Magnetar, one of the hashtags in the chat is tokusatsu. Yeah, this is based. His design is heavily influenced from tokusatsu, though I threw another one of my Japanese-born obsessions in there to give him a little bit more character and a little bit more of a different look than your Kamen Rider or Metal Hero. But yeah, like, I'm definitely playing to my tokusatsu love with the design. Like, it's less than 2 weeks away. I cannot wait to see what you guys think of it. Assuming it can happen, would it be interesting if Blaster and Soundwave work together as a team and the duo can combine together like animated Jetfire and Jetstorm? Now, yeah, you point out the part where, like, that would leave their cassette bots with really nothing to do. I do think they work best as rivals. I don't know, like, I don't know. I don't like the idea of combining them just because they're both sound guys. Now, I do like when hero and villain are forced to team up, and I'm sure there is some threat that the two would have to face down together. But I don't think, I think combining is a step too far. See, I know in the comics there was a Star Trek Transformers crossover. Do you think we may see a toy crossover to match? I don't know who has the Star Trek license right now. I know Toy Fair just showed off a bunch of new Star Trek toys. I don't know who's making them. Like I don't know who's making Star Trek right now. It is possible, but an Enterprise would be so hard to actually make into a Transformer because of how odd the shape is. That's where your trick lies. So that's the tricky part there. We've talked about that before. It would be difficult to engineer. Not impossible, though. Going off your Cyberverse video, what are your thoughts on the show's version of RC? Personally love how they made her adventurous, big gun loving tomboy. I really do like how outgoing and adventurous Cyberverse RC is. I like the social media diva aspect of her. It's a fun modern take on RC. You know, it's it kind of gets away of her like more motherly origins, you know, especially when Daniel's around, but it works. It works for Cyberverse. I really like that take on RC. If Dinobot from Beast Wars ever joined the G1 Dinobot team, what do you think would happen? He's immediately smarter than any of them. He'd have to absolutely be the battle strategist. Keep in mind, he's way smaller. Keep in mind, Beast Wars characters are far smaller because they emulate the real world animals. So, yeah, they're not towering robots. Dinobot, G1 Dinobot, or G1 Dinobot, G1 Dinobots would like make like Beast Wars Dinobot look like a Minicon. So I think Advisory would be about the only thing Dinobot could do, but he'd be good at battle strategy for them. Like they need someone. That's a lot of muscle with no brain to direct them. Dinobot could absolutely be the brain. I have seen people say upcoming Star Convoy proves that Haslab is unnecessary and that they could have released more of their figures as Titan class toys. What are your thoughts on that idea? Absolute nonsense. I do not agree with that concept at all. Star Convoy works as a Titan because it's Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime is going to sell. Now, I know they did RID Optimus as a Haslab, but that's because you wouldn't be able to do Ultra Magnus at retail. He would die a death, and there is no size that would make him do what he needs to do. Even at Commander class, you would not be able to make him big enough to actually integrate all of the like three, in order to have like 3 like cars stored in the trailer. No, I feel like most people who whine about certain figures being in Haslab do not understand toy economics correctly. They just don't. They just think, oh, big figure. They could have made big figure at store. Make big figure at store. That's not how that works every time. Most Haslabs are so complex in engineering, they wouldn't be Titan class. You know, they wouldn't. They just wouldn't. You know, just because Star Convoy, if anything, proves why we need Haslab. Because that Star Convoy, it's cool and it's big. It's a really simple figure. Did you see how simple it is? It's not a difficult design. It's not a difficult transformation. The base mode is just Prime sitting down with his legs open. Yeah, I do not agree with that notion at all. The Haslab is there for design complexity, not necessarily just size or, oh, Japanese character. Do you miss the Optimus Prime Super Mode power-up combinations? Absolutely. I thought it made Prime really cool, and it gave the trailer something to do. I absolutely miss that. Well, someone posted their question as a reply by accident. What is your favorite question that you've ever been asked on here or in life? That's... Whew. The favorite question I've ever been asked. See, I don't really think of silly stuff, but like, I can't think of that. Jeez, you're asking me to pick between thousands of questions. That's very difficult. I don't have a standout. Keep in mind, I've been doing these monthly Q&As for like almost 2 years now or something. Like it's been around a while now. I have been asked probably 10,000 questions. And I could not remember them all. I can't remember like specific ones. Like when my girlfriend asked me if I would wear a promise ring, that one worked really well. That one made me very happy. Yeah, I can't think of any like specific like questions that are like my favorite. My favorite questions tend to be the ones where I get to actually like spill my advice, you know? You know, like don't put an age limit on your fun, you know, or, you know, love what you do, but don't be satisfied, you know, as a way of like, yeah, you need to keep pushing yourself. You need to keep growing. That's about all I got on those. Yeah, I can't think of anything like specific or funny or anything. See, would you give Soundwave and Blaster new animal cassette partners? What kind of animal would you pick for each? See, I don't know how you would get an elephant out of that design, out of like a cassette design, but I like the idea of keeping Blaster stuff to kind of like safari level animals. A giraffe would be kind of cool too. I'd be kind of down for a giraffe cassette former, big long tall neck. Soundwave is trickier. His tend to be more predatory animals. For him, I might do something that he doesn't really cover with his animal spread. I might give him something aquatic. Maybe not a shark, because it's a little bit much, but like piranha or barracuda. That might work. So he can do some kind of underwater infiltration or espionage. Subwoofer is a funny name for a dog cassette. That's funny. Let's see. What do you think next year's Transformers Timelines theme is going to be? Beast Wars style prehistoric theme. Bat Optimus Primal, Alligator Megatron, Starscream as the Wasp is a reference to that episode. Bumblebee as Centurion's Beast Mode from Hearts of Steel. I mean, that's potential. I see where you're going with that. It doesn't quite. Actually, I can't remember what Centurion's Beast Mode was though. So that one. That one's throwing me. I thought they went farther back. I thought those really were prehistoric. The thing is, like, you're talking about like bats and like mammals were not around. Like alligators have been around a long time, but like bats are mammals. Bats have not been around nearly as long. So this doesn't line up exactly right. It's mostly just kind of making them all beast figures. I wouldn't mind, because a Bat Primal and a new Gator Megatron and a Bat Primal that's actually released in America, long overdue. Long overdue. I don't know. Like I don't know offhand what I would make it, but that's, it could be possible. What musical instrument do you think would make an amazing Transformers toy? Trick is, like, what kind of thing, the thing with a musical instrument is, like, if it make an amazing Transformers toy, I would expect the instrument to kind of work. But here's the thing, most instruments are, like, we've done guitars and keytars, right? So I want to avoid that. I don't think anything like string instrument would work, like violin or bass, even though, because that's still too close to a guitar. I'd want something more in like a brass instrument or a woodwind. In that, most of them are just tubes, and it's hard to get a transfer. I don't know how you get a transformation out of just like a tube, like a trumpet is just a tube. A trombone is just a bunch of tubes. My guess here would be a saxophone, because I think you'd have enough space in there, because like that's a tube, but it's a fat tube, like a tenor sax. That's a fat tube. You could probably get a transformer out of that, and you could probably design something. There's probably enough space in a saxophone shape to where the buttons on the actual saxophone, the keys, could actually activate sound effects and actually play a little bit of something when it's in instrument mode. That's about as good as I can give you. And this might just be biased because I used to play tenor sax. There's your trivia for the day. You guys want to know a lot about Soundwave. So in response to Soundwave having a super mode question, what if we got Soundwave where all of his drones function similar to Energon Prime? The thing is, the drones for Prime were so big that they could actually do something else with him. You can't really do anything with the cassettes other than just have them as mounted weapons of some sort. Yeah, like Ravage could be the helmet or something. Like I don't think there's enough size to the cassettes to do anything as far as like an actual super mode. I think at best you could just give Soundwave some more weaponry. Anything beyond that, I think they get impractical at anything beyond that. Thoughts on the anime Big O? I will tell you this. I own 2 Soul of Chogokin figures, those big high-end die-cast robots out of Japan. One of them is Gal Gaigar, the other one is Big O. I absolutely loved that show. The ending of season 2 is super weird because that show wasn't really designed to have a season 2. Cartoon Network just wanted a season 2. But I do really like that show. Really like that show. Actually, my best friend for years cosplayed Dorothy from Big O. And cosplayed Dorothy from Big O when I went to interview Steve Bloom. Gotta love how that works. Can you please forgive me for using your helicopter lobster idea for Plastic Addict? Sure. Be my guest. It's not like I have like a trademark or copyright on helicopter lobsters. Do I think Barricade should be the definitive rival to Bumblebee? Not necessarily. Not necessarily, because like we've seen a lot of different rivals to Barricade. You know, like I really liked Breakdown's rivalry with Bumblebee in Earthspark. I liked, you know, the idea of Stinger, which is like a Decepticon version of Bumblebee. Bumblebee needs to have like different rivalries, you know, to really emphasize just how good he is at what he does and that he is a skilled warrior. I don't see Barricade as a definitive rival because Barricade would also work really well with Prowl, the good cop, bad cop dynamic. So no, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Like, and it's going to be one of those, you know, it depends on how you write it answers. Hey, we got our first, it depends on how you write it answer of the episode. See, and also, yeah, I'm glad to be a comfort channel for you. I know you're not the only one. You know, so why I try to keep it mellow. You know, energy is nice and calm here. Just come here and just kind of enjoy the vibe. So I'm glad I can bring you a little bit of comfort when things are bad. Do you think Hasbro should make budget, aka mainline versions of characters like Star Saber and Death Stars? I mean, eventually they will. They probably will be different because they'll probably be worked into a current series or based on a comic book. But I do think at some point Star Saber and Death Stars will make their way into a main line. Inevitably they will. We just have definitive generation style versions of those characters thanks to Haslab. Keep in mind, they will be far simpler. I don't expect to see like Victory Saber from a mainline Star Saber. Or I don't even expect the Brainmaster gimmick or anything like that. You might not even get the smaller jet gimmick. It might just be one big space jet that turns into Star Saber. You'll get it eventually though. You know, they need to keep these characters in rotation, so eventually it'll be their turn again. We actually just answered the Power Master trailer. Yes, I absolutely want to see that again. How would you play a druid in D&D? Is it possible for them to shapeshift into a hybrid of different animals or different evolutionary stages? Could a druid get stuck in beast form and become a single? This is getting very... You are very much pushing the one question per person thing. To make this very, very simple, most of this you cannot do in D&D. For druids, they can only shapeshift into animals that they have seen. And if there's a hybrid of different animals, it would qualify as a monstrosity in D&D rules. Those druids cannot turn into. My druid in D&D actually played like a bard because I wanted him to be more street savvy and witty and charismatic. So, yeah, I actually didn't like the beast shaping. My druid was mostly magic based, which is to my detriment because I missed out on a lot of cool stuff that you can do when you can turn into more animals. Also, if you want to use science and magic in unison in D&D, play an artificer. What's your favorite design for Dr. Eggman / Dr. Robotnik? I mean, physically fit Jim Carrey Robotnik hasn't been bad. Honestly, like, I kind of prefer modern Eggman, like, the one that kicked off in America in like Sonic Adventure. Like, I like that one better. Like, my thought went to the Sat AM Robotnik because he's so menacing, but I think that's just Jim Cummings. I think that's just that voice coming out of him. What's something you appreciate about toy collecting now as an adult that you didn't think of as a kid? The fact that actual human beings sculpted it, and it took an artist, like a lot of dedicated, delicate work in order to carve out what these toys turned into, and the engineering process behind it that takes an incredible amount of intelligence and mathematical knowledge. So yes, yeah, I notice how much work goes into them. It's nice. It's the way that toy collectors turn. I think toy collectors, I think the people who didn't give up on toys, they take two divergent paths. They either grow up and see the monetary value of collecting and start keeping it all sealed, and that's the main draw for them as an adult collector, or they take the other path, which is appreciating them more as art pieces, realizing the people behind it and what goes into them, and still play with them and appreciate them for that. And there's people who do both. I admit I have a sealed collection. For the tank Megatron, should he remain a purely grounded vehicle, or should it be an air-capable, like Revenge of the Fallen or Fall of Cybertron, without necessarily being a triple changer? Thematic symbolism, not really. That again depends on how you write it. But I think, again, this is a slightly different answer. It depends on how you design it. So for me, I really didn't like the idea like Revenge of the Fallen Megatron was also somehow a jet, even though he was a tank. He just had little winglets stuck off his side. That to me does not say like flying jet, that just says like I've got these pieces of metal sticking off of me. So I don't necessarily think that. Like, I think like you need to just like, instead of making the design kind of confused, just make him one thing and just make him good at that one vehicle. If you want to triple change him, that's another story. With the recent talks of Transformers' perceived decline in popularity as a franchise, what genre demographic do you think could tap into it in order to gain a boost? DC going for teen drama, Smallville, Gundam going for okay. Basically, what's the pivot here? Transformers has been doing mostly the same thing for a long time. It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. Yeah, like I genuinely don't know. Transformers doesn't really have like, ironically, it you can't pivot it the way you can some other franchises, like DC did, all those Superman cartoons were really cool, but they also did, the adventures of, they also did like Lois and Clark, New Adventures of Superman, which is the romance more than anything. You can't really do that as much with Transformers. If anything, the only thing I really think they should do is just stop trying to dumb the series and the franchise down for little kids and realize that what made Transformers popular was it seemed really cool, and it seemed cool for little kids wanted it because the cartoons made it seem cool and the toys looked really cool. Now, it's not, the demographic they need to go after is the demographic they basically ignored, which is that between preschool, kindergarten, and like the young adults who are starting to become collectors. They've completely abandoned that market, and I think that's the mistake. What's a review that you've always wanted to do, but Velo is too big, either in size, popularity, or complexity? A review of every toy shop in Japan. Way too expensive to do. So For a real answer, it's Titans. I hate reviewing Titans. I wanted to do Metroplex. I wanted to do Scorponok, and every time I approach them, I'm like, this is so uncomfortable. I don't have any space that's quantified for this. Yeah, you'll see. I'm gonna bite the bullet and do one of them. You'll see. But yeah, it's like for me, reviewing needs to be a much more casual experience. Like once the toy gets overly complicated, overly big, like it gets really uncomfortable. So there's a lot I could answer there. When it comes to crossover collaborative figures, which of the styles do you prefer for the character? The Hasbro style making them an original character, or the Takara style making them an existing character like Optimus that turns into the vehicle? So it depends on what you're doing. For instance, when you're doing the DeLorean or the Ecto-1, you don't really have an equivalent transformer that makes sense for those. You know, like if I'm going to do anything with time, it's going to be like I'm not going to make Heinrad the DeLorean, right? Or Elita 1 because she can stop time. It's not the same thing. For those, yeah, like make them a different character. But I also think there is a really cool appeal to just making them the character themselves. We kind of see that with the Sonic ones and the new Naruto ones. Like they're technically trying to be different characters. They're trying to be unique, but they're also like heavily stylized to just be the characters. I kind of like that. I kind of like that approach. Almost like the same thing happened with brain blanking. Party Wallop. Same thing happened with Party Wallop, where yes, he is technically original character, but you can make him to look like any of the 4 turtles. So like you can just use your imagination and go like, well, no, this isn't Party Wallop. This is Leonardo. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's absolutely correct. Also, YouTube, stop this. Stop doing this AI crap. I'm not gonna make a generated answer for all these. What vehicle modes would you give Greenlight, Firestar, Moonracer, and Lancer, either in G1 or a new continuity? So Firestar, we already know, is a truck. It's a very low to the ground truck, but she is a truck. We saw her alt mode. I would like to see it properly represented. Moonracer is the type where I would see maybe a motorcycle. You know, that just kind of fits the name. Greenlight has to be some kind of sports car. Sports car or race car. I need the name Greenlight to make sense. Lancer's trickier. Lancer's trickier. I'd like to lean into that and make her some kind of jet. Because I want to add a little bit of variety to this team. Yeah, one is like super sleek, thin needle, like needle nose jets. As for upcoming molds, no idea right now. What is your opinion on the Red Ranger becomes an adventurer in another world? So, I watched them. I read the manga all the way up until the place scanlating it stopped. And I actually, like, here's a very rare time I can say I actually watched something. I did watch the first 4 episodes and I really enjoy it. I love throwing the cheesiness of tokusatsu into the realm of voice acting, which is already like designed to be over the top and very energetic. It's a lovely mix. Do you think a Sentai season based on cryptids would work? And if so, which cryptids would you choose? I honestly don't know if cryptids are really a big thing in Japan the way they are in America. You know, I genuinely don't know. So I can't really say. In Japan, you're much more likely to have it like genuine, like mythical creatures like kappas and things. I honestly don't think it would work. Because I don't think, because remember, you gotta target it to kids, so I don't really think kids are going to really appeal to like Mothman or something. As far as which ones I would choose, I'm not a cryptid person. Honestly, I'm not a big cryptid fan. I don't know any. Like, I know a Mothman and a Jackalope, and that's about as far as I go. Thoughts on a homeschooled Power Ranger season sometime? Dino Fury seemed to have a coded Blue Ranger ollie homeschooled when it's so honestly, I was not homeschooled. I don't know anyone who was homeschooled. I genuinely don't know how that would affect them, other than it might make it hard for them to work with a team, since they are not accustomed to being around others from, in their schooling. That's really all I got. I don't have enough experience or life knowledge to actually be able to answer that in any effective way. Sorry about that. Given that they next year they will turn 10 years old, having been used in any project not tied to a show film, we're using the late IDW as well as character size. Okay. A lot of preamble here. I'm getting lost here. Do you find it surprising that the only time the Generation line has ever done anything with the Evergreen designs was Power of the Prime Starscream? Related to that, do you believe we'll ever see Generations adapt these designs in the future? Most likely not, though if Generations last long enough, eventually Cyberverse that was designed after those Evergreen designs might be in line for that. And there's a few, like Grimlock, I would love to see get larger, like very fleshed out figures. Evergreen is designed to be generic. Evergreen is designed to just be that thing that they stick on merchandise and things for kids, and not really something that is designed to actually be a product, especially in collector lines. So it's possible because they were used in Cyberverse, but I genuinely don't think so. I think they're just relegated to just being on the front of sticker books for all eternity. What Transformers figure, official or otherwise, do you think has the most impressive and mind-boggling engineering? So impressive and mind-boggling are not mutually exclusive. So like I think like MP Megatron 2.0 has some of the most impressive engineering I've ever seen, because it makes something happen that shouldn't be possible. As far as like mind-blowing engineering, that usually just comes from like, honestly, like when I try to think of like mind-blowing engineering, I'm actually having trouble like figuring out, like, well, I'm gonna have to like put a cap on just like no questions that make me think about every Transformer that's ever existed. Like mind-boggling engineering goes to like things like RID Megatron, because 10 modes. Granted, most of them you need some imagination, but what's mind-blowing about that is that someone figured out how to do it and actually managed to keep it simple. 10 modes seems daunting, but the way that toy is designed, it's actually kind of easy to keep track of where things go and what has to be done for each particular mode. That's what's mind-boggling about it to me. The fact that not only is it 10 modes, but it's also intuitive. And you can actually tell what you're supposed to do next, no matter which mode you want. That, I think, is impressive and mind-boggling. If we're going for just like sheer complexity, yeah, you're looking at Masterpiece 2.0 Megatron, Ironhide, Masterpiece Ironhide. I think the engineering tricks on that toy are absolutely brilliant. So if you want mind-boggling or impressive, let's go with that one. We'll go with that one. What Power Rangers theme song makes you want to dance and sing to them? I'm not like a dance and sing type when it comes to these things. Let's see. So let's see. What was it? What am I thinking of? Like, I do like the Zeo theme. Let's see. I'm trying to go through like Power Ranger themes in my head. Lightspeed Rescue, I think, is a bop. I think a guilty pleasure one would be Turbo. Guilty pleasure would be Turbo's theme. Okay, and I'm gonna point this out just in case there's anyone else out there who feels this way. So don't ever worry about this. So yeah, like if you realize that like the question you asked might end up being a mistake, don't feel ashamed about just deleting it. I don't really look at the questions until it's, the first of the month. So you got time. So delete it. Think about another question. You don't have to just like stick by it. If you don't feel, if you post it and then like thought later, maybe it wasn't a good idea, just go ahead and go delete it yourself. What type of games do you plan on playing for Magnetar? I would love to play Monster Hunter Wilds, but everyone is playing Monster Hunter Wilds. And I'll be getting in on that like 2 weeks late at minimum. Magnetar is, as if you've been able to tell by all of the teasers, he is very shooting star themed. So space-oriented games would be nice. I have ideas for some games that would be very funny and ironic for Magnetar to play, but it would spoil a little bit too much of the character. So we're going to hold off on that. If you were the part of either a 2-part or 5-part combiner mecha, what part of the robot do you see yourself as? I mean, I think most people would assume they would be the main body or head. Like I never decided like, oh, I want to be a combiner. I'm going to be the left foot. No. I want to be in the middle. I want to be in the head. Look, I know the people who would be willing to combine with me. I need to be in charge of that circus. Would you, yes, you, TJOmega, give up the ability to transform to become faster, stronger, more alive? I have the ability to transform? Oh my god, I didn't know. What's my alt mode? What's my alt mode? How do I tuck my head away? I don't know how this works. Faster and stronger is fine. More alive? I feel pretty alive right now. And just keep the ability to transform. You just tell me how to do it. How about that? See, have you watched Kamen Rider Gov? No, I have not. I know the story is supposedly good. I cannot get past the theme. I cannot get past the designs. Gov is one of those series where every time I see a new design from that series, I hate it more and more. I don't care that you can power up with potato chips. I don't care that you're using a piping bag from a wedding cake as a weapon. I hate you. I hate everything you stand for. It's just one of those things where like, okay, yeah, I can acknowledge it's probably telling a really great story. I hear it's telling a really great story. I'm never going to be able to take it seriously enough. I just can't. Just can't. It's like watching clowns recite Shakespeare. It might be a fantastic play and very well performed, but your feet are still honking when you walk across the room. Do you think Transformers has an important place in the history and development of the Japanese mecha genre? I feel like Transformers always gets discussed as a fixture of US pop culture, but not enough is discussed about the impact and influence in Japan. So there is some, obviously there is some, because Transformers is a huge thing in Japan as well, but you gotta remember, in Japan, there are far more influential things. Gundam for decades, and then Neon Genesis Evangelion came along. It's not so much that Transformers, honestly, like, it should have a spot in that, but it's, it's comparing mountains and molehills here. It's like, yes, the molehill will change the direction of the wind, but not like the mountain. And the mountain is Gundam. Would you like a hidden unlock tier for Lyle Kaiser to be Lyzak? Would it be a retool of Leozak to form a new head torso for Lyle Kaiser or a different limb, shield, etc.? You wouldn't want Lyzak to be a retool of Leozak because she is way thinner, way smaller. So that big, heavy figure that Leozak has to be in order to form a torso is not going to work for her at all. Also, she's going to look almost identical to Leozak. So no. Would not work. I would either have to make her another shoulder cannon so Lyle Kaiser could rock 2 of them, or I would make her at the most I would make her a replacement arm like Death Cobra. That's all I can imagine her being. Like, she's just not going to fit anywhere else, literally. With the introduction of the Dinobot planet in Cyberverse, do you think Hasbro should do something about the life of the planet, and if it is where Slash paddles and the other Dinobots live too, as well as the Dinoforce others? Okay, basically, should they expand on the Dinobot planet from Cyberverse? I mean, it would be cool. It's an excuse to use a lot of the other Dinobots. That is a lot of Dinobots you're going to be introducing all at the same time. Like, that would basically be the entire cast of the show at that point. I would love to go back to the formula of Cybertron where we had a few different planets we could explore once in a while. That would be cool. And then, yeah, we can make a Dinobot one. With the combiner skeleton system being in vogue, do you think the 6-piece Micromaster combiners could make a comeback? And should they stay Micromasters or upscale to Core or Legend? So the skeleton system is not going to work for the combiner Micromasters, mostly because they work more like how Lyle Kaiser and Studio Series Devastator work. Remember, that big pelvis that those combiners have, that's just one solid piece. Like, that's not a framework combination. You know, the actual Micromasters form the arms and the legs. They just had huge attachment parts to keep everybody together. And not in a way that the skeleton is doing, much more close to what, you know, our bigger combiners are doing. And they absolutely need to be upscaled. Absolutely need to be upscaled. You know, core class would be fine. Because you would not be, because, like, I know it doesn't seem like they're doing much, but they do still need a little bit of extra engineering to work as a combiner pieces. So you would need core class at least. They'd be very hard to work in right now, though. See, have you watched any of the Tokusatsu inspired animes? We already talked about Red Ranger Isekai. I have not watched the others. I think I watched a little bit of Love After World Domination, but I honestly can't remember it. So maybe I didn't. Maybe I just skimmed a YouTube clip. Which Autobots do you think would fit the role of Chief Justice, since no one took on the post permanently after Tyrest? The gut instinct is Prowl, but I don't want Prowl in charge of these things. Honestly, Fort Max, I think, is the better fit. You know, because you know, you've still got the dedication to law enforcement there without being an amoral prick. Who would you cast in a Transformer spy thriller? I'd cast Skids. I feel like Punch Counter Punch is made for that, right? Like, we kind of have to use Punch Counter Punch in that style, or Night Beat, like, you know, and then your spy thriller has like Batman flair of like detective work going with it too. With the recent cancellation of Transformers Reactivate, which developer would you say would be the best candidate for making the next AAA Transformers video game? So unfortunately, I don't know. I don't keep track of the development houses often enough, so I can't really say. Oh my god, I should be able to remember the name of the ones who did Armored Core 6. Same people that did Souls games. I don't even know that one offhand. I should. Or I used to remember it. Don't remember it now. It's just because they made a really good mech game. Let's see. What do you recommend for fixing loose figure joints, as it looks like the Pledge floor polish was discontinued? Unfortunately, one of those things I'm still not good at is repair for Transformers and toys in general, so unfortunately I can't really help with that one. I've never really attempted a joint repair on any of my toys, so if there's a alternative to the Pledge floor polish, I don't know what it is, unfortunately. When do you think a character should not be made a Haslab? When is it better for engineering complexity and or size to take a hit for the sake of availability and affordability? So, boy. I'm trying to think now here. Now you got me on this one a little bit. It's a delicate balance. It's not that simple. Like, it's an incredibly different type of balance of what actually makes it Haslab or should be at retail. I think the biggest factor to Haslab is, would a retail level audience care? So like, would retail collectors, like Transformer collectors, okay, if they did Star Saber at retail as a commander, yes, we would care. We would buy it. You realize other people have to be willing to buy it too, right? That's why Commanders and Titans tend to be like really recognizable and popular things, or things that can't be done in any other size. So Haslab is where you get that like mid-level obscurity. Like, it can't be a retool of something like a lot of obscure characters who do make it to retail, but it's not popular enough to justify a new mold at retail. Also, you're not going to be able to repaint it or retool it into anybody. All we have is like a Dark Star Saber from Robot Masters, and that ain't going to sell. So, yeah, Haslab it is. And of course, second to that is complexity, because Star Saber would be extremely dumbed down and lose a lot of the details that make that a really cool toy if he was just a commander. So it's a difficult one to say. I would say like Deathsaurus is almost at a level where I'm like, maybe that could have been a commander or a small Titan, but honestly, even then, not really. Like, he's an odd size. He has to be an odd size to be in generation scale. So, yeah, it's a tricky one. There's no like tipping point really. Are you going to do more videos of X names in other languages? Probably. I keep meaning to, and then I totally forget that I only did the one. We'll get that. We will get that back in the rotation at some point. Do you think a real-life transforming Pikachu toy would be a realistic prospect, either in Transformers or any toy line as a transforming gimmick? So, a 16-inch Pikachu? Keep in mind, that would put him, just below, like, old Titan size. That's basically that's as tall as I think the upcoming Star Convoy is going to be. I mean, is it realistic? Maybe not, because you've got a lot of weight to consider, because Pikachu's chunky no matter what you do with him. But if you could figure out the engineering, yeah, you could do it. It would sell. And like anything, Pikachu is gonna sell. With both Deathsaurus and Leozak now locked behind Haslab, do you think it's practically impossible to get figures of Esmeralda and Lyzak, or could they be retooled from other characters and they don't need to make gimmicks? So you're presuming that like Esmeralda would basically just be like a retool of Deathsaurus, and that's why you're going for Grimlock to be like an Esmeralda because like Grimlock was going to be Death Source originally. Esmeralda has elements of Death Source in her design, physically, dramatically different body shape. Way smaller, not nearly as bulky. I think it's practically impossible to get figures of those two because they barely exist. They exist for like one book of fiction and have never appeared again since. I think that's where I think that is where you're not gonna ever see them. I think that's what makes them practically impossible. Death Source and Leozak have nothing to do with it, because we already explained why Leozak wouldn't work as a Lyzak retool. You can't. Yeah, and honestly, like, nothing's off the table anymore. So if Hasbro saw fit to do it, they would just do it, regardless of what they did at Haslab. Now that a lot of people have had time to give it a chance and have changed their opinions on it, are you currently, or do you have plans to give Nope. If the reason Beast Wars Megatron turns into a live T-Rex after scanning a T-Rex skeleton is because the scanner scanned the DNA of the skeleton rather than the shape of it, why did the fossilizers turn into skeletons? You could have protoform mutation the same way the Beast Wars Fusors were done. You could have just, it's not in their design. Maybe they were like very svelte, scrawny Transformers, you know, almost like Reed Man from Revenge of the Fallen. There's a few reasons you could come up with to kind of explain that away. Best Sonic game from the last decade. We're not talking Power Rangers. That's just the title of the video. YouTube AI, you're a moron. Best Sonic game from the last decade. I like Frontiers. It's just like a run around and just goof off kind of game. Generations was good. Was Colors released in the last decade? I know the Ultimate version was released in the last decade, so that technically counts. I really liked Colors, and I really liked Generations. I need to get back to Frontier. I really did enjoy what that game was doing. I just like completely lost time. It's one of those games I put down meaning to get back to it and then forgot to get back to it. And then Monster Hunter Wilds is coming out, so it's going to be a while longer. If you could pick one Beast Machines Videocon to get a modern toy or show up in a new show, which would you pick? Absolutely Jetstorm. So why not? Like, he's the most fun one of the batch. He has a cool design. None of his toys were really sufficient for conveying that design. Tankor and Thrust at least had those like basic class drone figures that were actually decent little figures of those characters. Like, I would absolutely go for a new Jetstorm. Which season of Power Rangers Super Sentai do you think had the worst looking Ranger outfits? Boon Boomger is kind of bad. I hate the tire face. Honestly, I never liked Tokugers because it didn't seem like, it just felt cheap. Like, the overall suit design just like felt cheap. Just felt like generic red spandex suit with train tracks stitched on. Like it didn't feel like, it didn't feel special. I'm trying to think if there's any others, like, because like I would have to go into like really, really old ones, you know, like Battle Fever J. I hate the helmet designs. I get the gimmick of it. I hate the helmet designs. Let's see. Revenge of the Fallen, when Mind Wipe was a stealth jet, what would be good vehicle modes for Weird Wolf and Skull Cruncher? Weird Wolf is tricky. I think you'd probably have to make him some kind of all-terrain vehicle. And Skull Cruncher would have to be either some kind of like swamp boat or like hovercraft kind of thing. Like, because I'm trying to keep them in like the same like binome. Like, what would make sense if they were like actually in the environment of those beast modes. Mind Wipe as a stealth jet is just like a really strong one. That's mostly just getting the shape correct. Yeah, that's tricky. I think that's the best I got there. I'd have to really kind of start exploring vehicles to come up with really good ones. Is there going to be a way to watch the Magnetar stuff on YouTube? I don't use Twitch, but still would like to check it out. So I would really suggest using Twitch to go watch the Magnetar stuff, because you get to interact with the character live on air, you know, and there will be times where you will be able to either alter what's happening on stream or even participate. So absolutely come watch when Magnetar is a constant thing. But as far as YouTube, I'm probably going to say, because like now that Twitch has done this like stupid like you have like a 100 gig limit on like how much video you can store, I absolutely need to make sure Magnetar has a VOD channel here on YouTube. That is the plan right now. I don't have it set up just yet, but it'll be along. Everyone's idea of a Mighty Morphin Power Ranger colored Volcanic is something I actually disagree with, mainly because the Dinobots never had a Master Dino Saber-Tooth Tiger. How on earth would you retool a Brontosaurus and Stegosaurus into those prehistoric animals? You don't. You just do them in Dinobot. You just do them in Megazord colors, make the whole like imagery work in the robot mode, the combined robot, and just let people have fun with it. You know? Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it, like how you're going to get a Stegosaurus retooled into a saber-tooth tiger. Don't overthink it. It's just one of those ideas to just kind of have fun with the homage. Let's see. Question for TJ. In the G.I. Joe Transformers crossover, when they were... my God, I am either fading out quick or something, because like I'm having trouble reading some of these now. In the G.I. Joe Transformers crossover, when they get to doing Starscream with Cobra Command figure included, would you consider that to be a Chris Latta special, since both characters were voiced by Chris Latta originally? Absolutely. That's the whole reason. Like, you do realize that's the whole reason they did that 2-pack of, like, you know, the jet repainted into Starscream and then a Cobra Commander included. That's the whole reason that those two characters are put together, is Chris Latta. Like, that's entirely 100% intentional. What do you think would happen if the Omega Lock, with all the keys, the Matrix leadership, and the creation of the Zodiac, and all the relics of the Primes were combined? Would it completely annihilate Unicron? Considering even one of those can annihilate Unicron, absolutely they could. Honestly, I think the Zodiac is depicted so powerful, I think it would overpower everything else, honestly. I think compared to the Zodiac, all of these would be like drop in the bucket. If they added Paddles to the main Dinobot cast, should he be renamed? I thought Paddles was a female Dinobot. Someone check me on that. But no, like, the appeal of Paddles is that they stand out. So no, you don't change their name. Otherwise, they're not Paddles. I understand going for the S name, but that's not, like, always a requirement. It is late. Reactivate's gone, so do you think a more story-driven video game could do Transformers some goodwill in the pop culture zeitgeist? What kind of game would you prefer? I mean, absolutely. I think you could make a story-driven game just out of what Transformers normally does, you know? Like, you've got third-person shooter games with really good stories. Yeah, like I really think it just comes down to the fact that we've never had a developer genuinely try to make a AAA level Transformer game before. You know, the closest we got was... Hang on. Getting stiff over here. The closest we got was Devastation, which was a really good game. Not AAA tier, but good game. And you could tell the people making it were really putting in A-level effort. See, how would you feel they turned the City of Dis from Dante's Inferno into a Titan? I never read Dante's Inferno. I didn't watch any of the movies based on it. I unfortunately cannot answer that. What female Autobot and Decepticon would you like to get their time to shine in the spotlight for a show, movie as main role in their teams? Let's see, we actually, Cyberverse actually did put oh god, brain blanking. Slipstream got her due in Cyberverse, so I would like to see her used more. For Autobot, I'd like Nautica to get a spotlight in like an actual show or brought back in a comic book or something. As far as Decepticons, can I even think of any offhand? There are far fewer female Decepticons than Autobots, so that actually gets tricky to come up with something. Yeah, I can't think of one offhand. That's bad of me in this situation, but I honestly can't think of one offhand. Like, to go with like Nightbird or something. I just have to do a throwaway answer, which I don't feel is good. I don't think it's good enough. Let's see. I know the recent Titans Return broadside had a lot of problems with it, but if we ever got an updated / better quality figure of him, how would a broadside mold work as a possible repaint for a new version of the Micromaster flat top? So there's a debate in Hasbro going on right now about, they know they need to do a new broadside. He's one of the few triple changers that they have not covered yet, and they know the last attempt was not well received. The trick is, how big do you make him? If they decide to make him scale with the other triple changers and make him a leader class, then by all means, like, repaint and retool him into flat top. That's a good Generation Selects pick. If it's any bigger, because in the cartoon, Broadside is Skyfire sized. He's a giant. In that sense, if it was a commander class, maybe not. Maybe not. That probably wouldn't work out as well. So if they did him smaller, yes. Do you know about the error in some of your recent videos where some of the images cut into your camera view? Yes. Yes, I'm aware. A few things got mixed around a little bit, so yeah. I try to avoid that. I try to fix it. See, if you could make a theme for a Sentai Power Ranger team, what would it be? Example, I like to do classic monsters, vampire, werewolf, creatures from the Black Lagoon, etc. So I go back to the original concept for Ryu's Soldier, which they went with dinosaurs because dinosaurs are a sure bet, but the original concept was different dragons. I would love a Sentai team with a dragon theme, because you do have a lot of different types of dragons out there that you could do. You have your traditional European, your Chinese, you have your drakes that are land-based, you have your wyverns with with no arms, just all wings. And then you get into like Sixth Rangers get to be like a Hydra. Things like that. Yeah, dragon theme, please. In all of the discussion of a modernized Soundwave alt mode, do you think a news van would work? As for the cassettes, they could become reporting equipment. Satellite dish for Laserbeak, or Rabbit turns into news camera, and Perseverance, Rumble, Frenzy act as news reporters that use the other cassettes. We've kind of speculated this before. One idea I always had for Soundwave was some kind of news van, so you could have his sound equipment on top, but I would have the cassettes be like mini vehicles that could store in the back of the vehicle. Like, you imagine the way that Origin's Wheeljack is designed, just transform from a big box. You would have like you'd have like dirt bikes that could turn into Laserbeak and Buzzsaw. You would have like an ATV that could turn into Ravage, things like that. That's kind of where that's kind of what I was coming up with for a time. Do you think Legacy Filch would look good as Nightbird? Can I remember who Nightbird is offhand? Yeah, I'm not kidding here. Maybe it's the fact that it's almost 3 in the morning as I record this, but I cannot remember Nightbird. The name's familiar. I can't picture them in my head. Hang on, this is bugging me now. This is going to be very unprofessional of me. It's going to be very unprofessional of me. Give me 1 second. Oh, it's the one I just mentioned. That's... Oh my god. I mean, it would be literal. Some of you out there got a good laugh at the fact that a character I just mentioned then immediately blanked in my head because it is late and I'm trying to get this finished. Wouldn't it be nice if Liner Gao could interact with Gygar outside of being Gao Gygar's shoulders? I'm not sure how you would unless you split it in half and make like 2 like big shoulder weapons for it or something. It would be nice. Did you watch Star Trek Prodigy? No, I did not. It's one of those million things that people ask me, have you watched this? No, don't have the time. Currently fiending for the slightest bit of info about Age of the Prime's Nexus, so while I wait, I speculate. And on that matter, what do you think they're going to do with him? I don't think he's going to be a Titan. What I'm thinking for Nexus is probably he's going to be... He can't be Commander class because we've got Vortex and Swindle coming out, so next year's Commander is going to be Onslaught. No, your best bet there, he's going to be a leader class, but his alt mode is going to require him to disassemble on his arms and legs. They will probably pop off and become other vehicles. So he'd basically work like a Megazord. That's the best I got right now. I don't think he's going to be bigger than a leader. What do you think will take for Hasbro to allow writers to create whatever risky, outlandish animated series they want, a la Beast Wars and Armada, rather than play it safe with another G1 reboot? Then the same thing it took last time, the collapse of the franchise. You know, right now we are seeing like a knee-jerk reaction to Earthspark being different. They have gone back to strictly G1 stuff, and the only real difference is design. So we'll see how Cyberworld goes. But yeah, like, it's going to take a big kick to their pocketbook for them to realize they need to go back to what was making Transformers popular in its heyday. Favorite Mercs or non-faction Transformers? That changes from series to series. Like, my general answer to that would be Lockdown. Because I think he is like the de facto Merc and non-faction Transformer. The other ones just kind of float because it depends on the series we're talking about. Let's see, I don't like my Seekers to be just color swaps. If you were to pick distinct designs for the main 3 Seekers, what would you pick? Mine would be Cybertron, Starscream, Armada, Skywarp, and hypothetically reactivate Thundercracker. I've said this before. If I was doing like different designs for Seekers, then I would just make all of them have different jets for alt modes, and their robot modes would just end up with things in similar spots. You know, like, to pick like existing ones, I don't really like Armada Skywarp. I don't know what else I would pick, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with I'm gonna go with my original answer. I wish their vehicle modes were different, which would inherently make their robot modes stand out from each other, but still like have enough connective tissue to look like a team. What's the most interesting way contact with Earth and humans has changed the direction of the Cybertronian War in any continuity? I mean, it's the connection to humans and Earth that actually won the Autobots the war in the original G1 canon, according to Beast Wars. So that's pretty interesting. You know, that the humans gave the Autobots the advantage in the end. It was Spike on Cybertron that stopped the Quintesson plan and Five Faces of Darkness. That would have been the end of the entire Cybertronian race if he wasn't there. That's pretty good. The influence on Thundercracker in IDW. You know, like making a Decepticon realize that these humans are actually worth keeping alive and worth respecting. Again, depends on how it's written. If it were possible to give Cybertronians the ability to use stands from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, what would you do for a stand for Optimus Prime and Megatron? I don't know JoJo. I do not know JoJo. I would probably base the stand off of previous leaders or previous characters. Like for Optimus Prime, it'd be Alpha Trion. Easy enough. Megatron you'd probably have to make Megatronus. Because of course he would summon his namesake and one of the 13 to be his stand. What would happen if Kamen Rider Gob used the Gaibu revolver? I don't watch Gob, I have no idea. Do you prefer Volcanicus or Volcanion? The Pokemon? Are you asking which design I prefer, or are you asking which name I prefer? Volcanicus, I think, is a cool name. I hate most of the Volcanicus designs out there. The core is not bad. Volcanion, I would take over most Volcanicus designs. Since RID 2015 brought up the idea that Cybertronian sign language exists, how would you feel about a Transformers series making Bumblebee completely deaf and having him communicate through sign language or text? That would be really hard to form a connection with kids if he had to sign or text everything. It might be an endearing trait if written correctly, but I do think it would take away from what the character would be capable of doing storyline-wise, especially in action scenes. Like, Bumblebee needs to be quippy. He can't be quippy if he has no voice. Also, I don't really like injecting disability into something just for the sake of injecting it. You know, if you're going to do this, I would prefer it to be a completely new character rather than going off the back of the popularity of an existing character. You know, I think it would stand stronger if it was someone who's completely new in the Transformers franchise, and them, you know, for some reason being deaf, was, you know, something that changed their character and how they, how they operate and like how they are as a character in the story. Yeah, but don't do it to an existing one. Especially don't do it to your franchise. Do you prefer stories with or without human characters in them? Depends on how they're written. I've thoroughly enjoyed stories like Lost Light and the Till All Are One, I think it is. The Windblade versus Starscream political drama. No humans involved in those whatsoever. I like those stories a lot. But, you know, I also like G1, you know, like, and Beast Wars as well. But I also like G1 and its human cast of characters. I like Prime and its human cast of characters. Depends on what you're doing with them. Thoughts on the new Sentai Anniversary Series #1 Sentai Gozuger. I really love the design style. I love the design style in the Zords, the mecha, rather, and the suits. I have not watched it yet, but I absolutely will. I actually do want to give that one a try. What do you think of Rung actually being Primus's earthly body in a similar situation as with Optimus being the earthly body of the 13th in some continuities? I mean, it works as a big twist in IDW, but honestly, I didn't really like the concept or the idea. I like Primus to be this, like, unreachable aspect of the Transformers universe, just, like, over everything. I don't like him to just be, like, some guy just sitting in the room. That's weird. I think the character loses meaning if they're just reduced down to that. What do you want the next Haslab to be? Not necessarily what do you think it will be. I want it to be, this is going to be shocking, I want it to be Energon Optimus, because I think Energon is one of those lines like RID, where the appeal at retail level is limited, and I really, really need the Haslab budget to make that toy work the way it should have always worked. That toy needs angle tilts desperately. That toy needs more articulation in the drones. That toy needs a better way of handling the proportions of the character. And it needs something to do with the trailer other than just flipping up on its backside. And then you pack in Wing Saber with him, because Wing Saber falls into the same category as RID Ultra Magnus. If you released these guys at retail, no one would care about the Wing Saber. You'd get people to buy the Optimus, no one would care about the Wing Saber. Dedicated fans, yes. Most casuals and the ones who need to buy the toys too, no. So that's who I kind of wish, because I think Haslab's the only way to do that one right. Outside of Nintendo IPs, if you had to pick a video game vehicle for a Transformers crossover, what would it be? Video game vehicles that are not Nintendo, so I can't use Samus's gunship. I am trying very hard to think, because I don't really play a lot of video games that have vehicles. Yeah, like, that's actually really, really tricky for me. Like, I'm trying to go to, like, Sonic. If I can't use Nintendo, I'll go to Sega. But most of Eggman's stuff isn't going to make for a good Transformer. Yeah, I don't have an answer for that one. I genuinely don't have an answer for that one. Since you took Nintendo away, I genuinely don't know. I don't play a lot of video games that have vehicle mechanics. If we were to ever get a Titan-sized collab, what do you think it would be? The one I would want would be Autobots City, because I think that's something that collectors would really be into, but I don't think a general audience would care about Autobots City as a Titan. What do you think of this idea? Neko Man, a cat-themed metal hero who fights an alien dog army called the K9ers. You'd upset a lot of dog fans, but the internet would love it. Since I seem to be designated D&D questions every month, have you developed an idea for Scheduled Conflicts 2 yet? Thank you very much for watching Scheduled Conflicts. I'm very proud of that show, and very happy with what we're doing there. I do have a concept for season 2. I don't know how, it's not quite fully baked yet, but it's a lot more solid than it was a month ago. What would a Hasbro McAdams toy look like? Size, class, line, and alt mode. He's gonna be a deluxe. They just revealed him. He's gonna be a deluxe. He's gonna be a truck. That's Amalgamus Prime. But if you're talking like classic macadam, I'm just a bartender macadam. Macadam keeps like an air of dignity to him. It would probably be like an old school, like old Rolls Royce type vehicle. You know, like something classical and high end. That's where my brain goes for him. Since we are getting a video game, manga, and anime, do you think about crossing them over with... Excuse me? Since we are getting a video game / manga / anime, do you think about them crossing over with Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh? I'm not sure what you're asking here. Because, like, we're not getting these three things. Like, right now, we aren't getting any of these three things in Transformers. And no, I don't really think of crossing anything over with Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! At any given point, if I'm being honest. I assume you mean, like, crossover stuff because we're getting, like, video game, manga, and anime characters in crossovers. What do I think about them crossing over with Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh? We have kind of answered that before. I don't think most Pokemon would work as Transformers because the designs really aren't suited for it. I want Transmetal 2 Megatron redone as the Blue Eyes White Dragon. There you go. Wouldn't combiners be the perfect figures for non-transforming companies like YOLO Park? If Devastator, for example, is just one figure, then people wouldn't have to put up with the cost-bad individual figures. Instability. You would think that. You would think that. And a lot of combiners are popular enough they could get away with a non-transforming figure. Devastator, yeah, like, I'm surprised no one's done that yet. Give it time. Flame Toys did it as a model kit. There's that. We have that one. What's the closest thing Transformers has to Kefka Palazzo? Oh my god, we don't have anything close to Kefka. Like, Kefka is a level of just joyous sadism that Transformers rarely approaches. You'd have to pick one of the DJD. You'd have to pick one of the DJD, and none of them are power hungry enough. Yeah, I think just for cruelty, it would have to go to one of the DJD. I don't know which one's offhand. But yeah, like, we don't have much that's close to that. Do you remember Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce Go? Yes. I didn't watch much of it, but I remember it. Do you think the Studio Series will start to use characters from the cartoons? No. There's no point for Studio Series to do cartoon characters. That's why we have Generations. You know, those have been getting toys literally every year for like 20 years. That's not what Studio Series is for. If you had to pick one Decepticon and one Autobot to switch sides, who would you pick? For Decepticons, Thundercracker, absolutely. I want an Autobot Seeker. Like a real one, and he's absolutely in that vein. For who would go the other way? It's really hard to pick because there's not a lot of gray area Autobots who would turn to the dark side. Yeah, geez, I can't really... I can't put a finger on anybody. Like, you'd have to write the story differently in order to incorporate that. And the only thing I can think of would be, weirdly enough, Retgar, because that would give the Decepticons an edge in that, you know, Junkions can repair just about anything at any time. It'd give them like a medical advantage. You know, their combat tactics are a lot dirtier, so like Junkions would work in the Decepticon way. Also, they're kind of neutral in a lot of Transformer fiction. You know, Retgar's an Autobot sometimes, like not in IDW. What would be your nope, I'm done moment for collecting? My instinctive thought is a $30 deluxe. But I also think we're not too far off from that. Yeah, it would be price. It wouldn't be anything that Hasbro did. It would be price. Like, at some point, the hobby, if it keeps inflating, is just going to become unaffordable, and it's going to price me out. Even though the differences aren't that much, do you think they'll do remolds of SS1 Op and Meg into their Cogged, Orion, and D16 forms? Probably not, especially because the movie did not do very well. It didn't profit. I don't think they're going to see any reason to continue pushing Transformers 1 stuff. I think they're going to get out Sentinel and Elita and then call it a toy line. Will Sega ever bring in the Freedom Fighters, or is it a dead aspiration as the company trying to make Sonic a household name in Japan? So the Freedom Fighters are actually like owned by Sega. We actually found like the correct documentation. I say we like I had a part in it. They found the direct documents for ownership for those characters, and yeah, Ken Penders don't own them. Ken Penders and Archie do not own them. Sega owns them. They could bring them in anytime they wanted. I think it's more just like Sega already has such a big roster of characters for the Sonic games as it is. You don't need them. You really don't need Sally and Rotor and Antoine. It would be fun. It'd be great to get them, but they don't need them. They've got characters like, when's the last time Marine was in a game? Like when you've got characters like that who are just superfluous thrown in and then never to be seen again. When you have that deep pool of characters you can pull from, you don't need to bring in like an entire cartoon cast. What do you think about the new Buffy the Vampire Slayer revival? Have you watched the original show? Nope. And I haven't seen the revival either. Given your dislike towards Circuit Breaker from the G1 Marvel Comics, would you say all Transformers bad is the worst way to set up a human antagonist? The xenophobic thing is a natural direction to go. It's how the live action movies went eventually, and I hated it. I want my heroes to be treated like heroes. I want to feel sympathetic toward the people they're trying to save and rescue. When those people are actively trying to destroy them for reasons that are, in other contexts, racist, that sits very, very poorly with me. Very, very poorly with me. I mean, I'm sure there are worse ways of setting up a human antagonist, but that one is... I don't like that one. So I ordered Megatronus on Amazon, and on there it says it's going to be coming out in May, but in many of your videos you say that it'll come out quite a bit earlier than that. So the only reason I said that is because I have my pre-order at Big Bad, and for a bit they switched the pre-order arrival to January. But January came and went, and then they switched it to February. And now we are in March. I still have not gotten charged for it. So my only concern there was they're changing dates. Keep an eye on it just in case. More likely than not, like your Amazon order is going to come in May because Amazon keeps that on lock a lot better. But other stores might be getting it earlier. We will see. Recently got a complete RID 2001 Megatron in great condition. I have it displayed next to my Mint Inbox Galaxy Convoy. Sometimes I find myself staring at them just wondering how I got them. Are there any figures that make you do that as well? So part of those would be like the Derek Wyatt toys, because those are incredibly special, but that's my friend Edgar, and I was super lucky that someone was willing to do that for me and make sure I could preserve part of Derek's collection. I look at that and go, yeah, that's actually really cool that I managed to get that. I'm looking around, like there's always cool toys that are like I picked up somewhere and I'm like, wow, I actually managed to find that. You know, I have like the Japanese RC car from Mega Man. That's a really random thing. That's really, really random. I have the combat belt Batman from the animated series, the only one that actually looks like Batman from the cartoon. And I have it signed by Kevin Conroy. And like I look at that and go like, man, how did the stars line up in such a way that I actually managed to get that and I now possess it? Crazy when I think about it. Do you think to change up the franchise up a bit, they could use the cast from Victory as the main cast in a show or movie with guest appearances from the usual bots? My instinct would be, to mix them in or make them some other like team that the main cast of Autobots would have to go through, would have to like work beside, but not to make them the main cast. That might be a bit too far. Are you planning to do a video comparing Legacy Evo Volcanicus with Legacy United Dino King at some point? Not really. I mean, because yeah, there's changes between them, but it's really just heads and a few accessory parts. Like, it's not a vast difference between them to the point where like I need to do like a full rundown comparison. Would you like a Transformers heist story? Are you offering me one? I wouldn't mind one. Like watching like the IDW scavengers try to like heist the Matrix or something would be hysterical. Is there a Transformers toy line you would like Hasbro to straight up reissue? I mean, some of the Japanese G1s, Victory. Trying to think if there's one where I just like stare at it and go like, yeah, like I want them to reissue this entire line. And the answer is not really. Like there, any given line, I could say like I want that particular figure, but there are very few lines where I'm like, yeah, do it all again. Just straight up reissue everything. You know, like mostly like I would like things done in like continuation rather than like reissue. You know, like I would love them to do something similar to Alternators again, but you know, not reissue the ones before because like we only needed those to shelf warm once. Is it just me, or can you see an Energon Snowcat pre-tool in the Age of Prime's Prima Prime figure? Age of the Prime's Prima Prime figure. I think we found a problem with that name. There's something of a shape there, but I think that's mostly just the fact that the vehicle mode is white, giving you that impression. I think it's too far off, personally. Let's see. I don't know if this is against your rules. Let's see. I'm just gonna say this. If you start your question, if you post something, if you come up with a question, you're typing it out and you go, I don't know if this is against the rules. It's probably against the rules. You know, because you're asking like you're asking like who would the individual Zords of like the Wild Force Megazord transform into? That's asking me to come up with a roster. Please do not do that. And this is especially because it's getting very late into the recording and my brain has already failed me more than once. Do you think the brand is falling into the same traps as it did in G2's? Too many cheap gimmick figures that focus on the now with flashy colors and simple transformations instead of lasting impact with a younger crowd. We talk about this a lot on the channel. I think going for the youngest demographic is a huge mistake on Hasbro's part. I think it takes away from the brand a lot when the toys look so lame and cheap in the toy aisle. And when the shows feel low effort or they're with partners who give them no attention, yeah, that's gonna sour things a lot. I don't think they're falling into the same trap as G2, because G2 was trying to, like, well, G2 was trying to be as cheap as possible. A lot of reissues and simple figures to continue it. Which you could argue is happening now. But yeah, I think they're going way too, like, kid focused. I think they need to make the franchise cool. Let's see, between Green Wave and IDW, which ones do you think did the better versions? Should be vodka right now. I'm gonna skip over that one, on the off chance there weren't any typos in that. Opinions on a Transformers Hot Wheel crossover toy line. Like a series of toys that series turned into iconic Hot Wheel cars from all the years. This was literally announced today. This was literally announced today. And you know what? It's a cool idea. I forget how many Hot Wheels toys are unique to that line and aren't just licensed vehicles. Imagine if any Cybertronians discover the Bots. Depending on the bot, that could be horrifying. Could be funny, though. Do you prefer traditional beast transformers like the G1 Dinobots or the Beast Wars style organic animal alt modes? I prefer robotic animals. Like, it does away with the robots in disguise thing, but, you know, I feel like it fits in better with, like, a lot of the classic designs that I really like. Beast Wars is fine and I really like Beast Wars in its own thing, but, like, it obviously does not mesh well with Generations typically. Favorite partner Minicon in Armada. Oh my god, what was Smokescreens? Was Smokescreens Hoist? Because that was actually, like, the little, like, forklift guy, because he was neat. He was really neat. The partner ones always felt like they missed the boat on the design style. I mean, I think if it's not that one, it would be Sparkplug. So I thought that made a really cool little car figure. Do you think Hasbro would make a reboot of the G1 cartoon in the future? That's basically how they do every cartoon. Every cartoon is G1 reboot. They just change a few plot elements. To be a full-on reboot? Maybe. Eventually. I still foresee a point where Hasbro's going to have to downsize the Transformers line and the Generations line is going to have to also be the cartoon line. That's probably where you're going to see that. Do you think if the new DC Universe James Gunn is doing fails, that Warner Brothers sells both DC Comics and Studios to Disney? Probably not. I think there's some, like, I think there's some FCC laws that come into play here if Disney has that much of the entertainment industry locked down. I don't know if just, like, I know DC's in trouble right now. But I don't know if they're in so much trouble that, like, a few bad movies from James Gunn are going to sink all of Warner Brothers at this point. Though, to be fair, that gets into business that I don't really pay much attention to. If Hasbro was to make new toys for Power Masters, do you think they would find a way to include the Nebulon partner? The Nebulon partner would most likely just be an attachment piece. I don't think it would unlock the transformation, because that made a whole lot of toys a lot harder for kids to play with once they inevitably lost that engine. So it would probably be just an attachment as a minifigure, and then similar to Headmasters, they would probably be able to ride inside the vehicle mode. See, if Beast Wars the second, or is it Beast Wars Neo, Magmatron, Neo had the dinosaurs, was all of a sudden isekai'd into the foreign realms of D&D. We mistaken for a fiend of sorts. Oh, absolutely. Like, some kind of weird homunculus of different, like, dinosaurs, because dinosaurs are a thing in D&D. Yeah, like that, probably some kind of legendary pit fiend, especially if he's in Magmasaur mode. See, if you had time or were able to, did you play Shadow Generations? No, not only because, I'm trying not to spend money on games right now because I have so many games that I've bought and neglected. But also, yeah, just time. I haven't been able to sit down and play games, just do nothing but play a game for quite a while. Who is Master Dominus? I'm guessing possibly the American name for Big Convoy. Incorrect. Master Dominus is the name of a fossilizer woolly mammoth in Kingdom. And it's Master Dominus, though Master Dominus is a funny way of playing it. When can we expect a Transformers Magnetar collab? When Magnetar gets popular enough for Hasbro to notice. So, yeah, spread the link. Tell people to follow. We got 2 weeks to go. Are you getting the new Power Rangers action figures from Playmates, and are you making any video on it? I already made a video because the first ones were shown, and it was not a really good first impression. But I'm going to have to do an apology video after I get back from LA because, yeah, it looked really, like the presentation they had at Toy Fair looked really, really good. Maybe not the action figure until like the retro 7-inch figures come out, like the ones that are like the big vintage toys. I'm probably getting the Blade Blaster because that's a really neat trick that a Blade Blaster hasn't done before. I'm probably getting the Dragon Dagger because it has accurate sound effects for the first time ever. In a free-for-all, which of these Decepticon combiners is coming out on top? Devastator, Mensaur, Bruticus, Predaking, Piranacon, Abominus, Monstructor, King Neptune, Dino King, Lio Kaiser. It would come down between Predaking and Lio Kaiser. Those are the two most powerful. And I think Predaking wins that one because he's far more united than Lio Kaiser is. Hellbat alone is going to make him just a little bit less together. Do you think that Titan Cybertron Metroflex should have got a base mode? I think it should have gotten a decent vehicle mode. A base mode might have helped, but it needed dedicated transformation parts for that base mode. Not just like, I'm spreading my legs out and little toys can now ride them. I want to try a Masterpiece Transformer. What is the best one to get that won't break my bank or cause me to go insane? So, middle ground between cost, complexity. My go-to, and they're readily available. I know Big Bad has at least the one I have. Try for the Skids mold. It's available as Crosscut and is another character named Reboost based on the Red Diaclone version. I have Reboost, who actually comes with a bit more accessory than Skids does. It does have a nice Masterpiece level feel to it. It's under $100. Yeah, so that'd be the recommendation. Have you seen the upcoming Bandai High Grade The King of Braves Gao Gaigar Cho Ryujin kit? I've seen it. I don't remember it offhand. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. I know if it's the one that I'm thinking of, it has a lot of cheat parts to it, though. Because that's a tough design to make functional without cheating. Okay, please don't do this. Please don't do this. I'm not even going... I'm sorry. I'm not... If you type a wall of text and give me an entire novel to read, this is supposed to be quick, punchy. Please do not do that. Okay, what Transformers would you be friends with? I like to think I'm pretty easy to get along with, you know, so I would probably I feel like most Autobots I'd get along with. If I have my choice, maybe Hot Rod. He seems fun to hang out with. He likes to fish. I don't like fishing, but you know, he has his laid back moments at least. If you would be closed in a room 2 meters on 2 meters, and then have to be there with one of the Kamen Rider villains, who would it be? Evolt, Dan Kuroto, Hirobi, or Kazari? I'm dead no matter what. What are you doing to me? Probably Kuroto Dan, because he would be funny to be stuck with, and also I don't think he immediately means me harm like the rest of them do. Another Red Ranger Isekai question. We watched it. I watched it. I like it. Would you want Deathsaurus and Leozak to have a relationship similar to Fizzaroli and Asmodeus? No. Because Fizz and Ozzy are a couple. I don't want Deathsaurus and Leozak as a couple. They butt heads. They have their arguments because Leozak's a little bit power hungry. No, no, please don't do that to them. Is a new studio series Dragonstorm possible? I mean, at this point, yeah, just about anything is, though they seem to be avoiding The Last Night because of its very poor representation. Do you still buy metal card bots? Not really. I've only ever gotten a few of them. That said, metal card bots is coming to the US, so I will be getting a few of them once they are easier to obtain. Do you think it's a good idea for a fan to make a Transformers fighting game? I say that because of copyright issues like with Nintendo. So, we don't know who's going to hold the video game license for Transformers, and that it will depend on them. Some companies are fine with fan-made stuff, some are not. Hasbro is usually pretty okay with fan-made stuff, as long as you're not selling it. So, I'm not really sure. That's a risk. Favorite Mario Kart? Mario Kart Wii. I know a lot of people don't like that because it's a little bit broken. I was dominant in that game. I knew tracks back and forth. I knew exactly how to work a bike in that game. So, yeah. Really, really liked Mario Kart. Really, really liked Mario Kart Wii. Me and my friends used to stream it. And the joke was I was the boss character because I won just about every race. If someone else won besides me, it was a moment of celebration. Question, why don't we talk about Kiss players? Haha, I did talk about Kiss players. Real question, what's your favorite Alternator figure? Thinking back on them? The one I think I think the one I messed with the most was Shock Blast. Because it's just funny. And because it was everything I liked about the Mazda mold, but the RX-7. It's everything I liked about that but they smoothed it out a lot. It felt a lot better. And there's such a novelty to Shockwave as a car that I was kind of into that. I don't know. Second place might go to Decepticharge because I think the name is hysterical. And I kind of like the engineering on that toy too. Why do you think it would be a better idea to make Sonic the one attracted to Amy in the fourth movie instead of the other way around? You said it would lead to a jerk Sonic, but wouldn't what you said lead to a jerk Amy? Not necessarily. So, you have to remember, Sonic constantly runs away from Amy's affections in the traditional games. He shoves her away a lot. He's very standoffish when it comes to her being, having a crush on him. yeah, like to watch Sonic just kind of like shoot this girl down for, you know, like at least half of the movie before like the plot kicks in and they get their act together. That's just Sonic being a jerk to a girl. If you flip it around, the antics are different when you flip it around. Instead of, it's not that like Amy's just constantly rejecting him. It's that Sonic is failing to impress. And there you have a lot of comedic possibilities and a lot of story possibilities for Sonic. It makes a lot more sense. And Amy herself doesn't have to be as aggressive toward it as Sonic is. Sonic has like a little bit of aggression toward like when Amy gets out of control with her crush. To flip that script, that's not how you would depict Amy in that one. She would mostly just be like, what are you doing? That kind of like deadpan, like, oh, okay, whatever kind of response. It's not like she wouldn't. I don't think you could play it to where she's not coming across mean, but I think it'd be harder to keep on the other, if it's the traditional way. I have high hopes for Starcatcher too, or Magnetar as we now know him. Why do you like Zoids more than Gundam? And would you like Gundam if it were more like Zoids? I mean, if Gundam was robotic animals, yes, I would like Gundam, but it's not. You are, once again, we're asking about Gundam. It's a no-no, but I will answer this. Zoids have way, way, way more variety. Gundams keep the same design structure a lot. They keep the same design styles a lot, even if they change color, have different weapons, have slightly different armor. I'm looking at characters who mostly have the same head, the same face. It's, like a lot of the torsos are still based on the old RX-78-2. It's just way too samey. Way too many Gundams just kind of look the same. And it's just like, I don't care. You have buried the interesting stuff in just a swath of wave of mediocrity entirely invented by your own inability to just make different looking robots. I like Zoids because they look so dramatically different across all of their iterations, and even when they repeat animals, a Blade Liger does not look like a Shield Liger, does not look like the Liger Zero. I need variety, and Gundam does not provide me the variety. I know for some, yeah, for me, no. And last up, do you think Optimus Prime should have a core team of characters who are his close friends and trusted allies who you go for immediate help or support? I do like that idea. I mean, of course, he would have those that he trusts the most and those that he is closest to. Yeah, Bumblebee, Ironhide, Bulkhead, Mirage, Sunstreaker, Prowl, and Power Glide. I think that might be a little bit too many. Like if I was doing like a reboot of G1, I would have like a core class of 5 characters that Optimus was really close to. That was like, this is my central cast, and then everybody else would just be like occasional appearances in episodes. But, I think that might be just a few too many. Because core team is how we got Beast Wars and how those characters ended up being like so strong. Because they were able to constantly focus on them. And if Optimus had the same, that would work. And that is going to do it for our Q&A for the month. And thank you everyone for submitting your questions. My timer says almost 2 hours on the dot, so we actually got through it a little bit quicker than usual, which was the plan. Thank you to everyone who kept the questions short. We skipped a few in there because, oh my god. But yeah, I'm going to go eep. I am eepy. So thank you very much for watching. Of course, you know the rules by now. If you have a question, it will be pinned to the top of the comment section. And as always, thank you for watching. I will see you next time.